Is your mind sometimes haunted by a critical inner voice? Do loops of self-doubt, worry, or resentment play endlessly, draining your energy and stealing your joy? These negative thoughts, like persistent shadows, can cloud our perception and hold us back from living fully. We try to push them away, argue with them, but often they just seem to grow stronger. What if there's a different way? A path to peace found not in fighting, but in understanding? Stay with us. Welcome to the Noble Wisdom Path, where ancient wisdom illuminates the path through modern challenges. Today, we explore a timeless Buddhist story, adapted to shed light on the pervasive struggle with negative thoughts. Discover how these patterns take hold and how the practice of mindfulness can help us gently release their grip, leading towards clarity and inner freedom. In a monastery perched high on a serene mountain, lived a wise master and his disciples. Among them was Kenji, a young man known for his diligence, but also for a certain intensity, a tendency towards harsh self-judgment. He practiced meditation earnestly, yet often found his mind snagged on perceived failures or anxieties about the future. His inner peace felt fragile, easily disturbed. One day, the master assigned Kenji a task requiring intricate calligraphy, a skill Kenji admired but felt inadequate in. As he prepared his ink and brush, a familiar thought arose. I'm going to ruin this. I'm not skilled enough. This initial flicker of doubt, the Vitakka, was just a thought, a momentary assessment based on past insecurities. But Kenji didn't let it pass. He held on to the thought, turning it over, examining it. Remember that scroll you smudged last month? The master probably regrets trusting me with this. This was Vicara, the sustaining, the elaboration. The initial doubt wasn't just observed. It was fed, nurtured with memories of past mistakes and imagined future disappointments. His shoulders tensed, his breath grew shallow. He attempted the calligraphy, but his hand trembled slightly, guided by the anxiety the sustained thoughts had created. A small drop of ink fell, marring the clean paper. Kenji froze. The inner critic roared, "See? I told you. You're clumsy, incapable." Instead of simply cleaning the spot or starting anew, Kenji was overwhelmed by a wave of frustration and self-recrimination. He crumpled the paper, the negative thoughts now a storm within him. This pattern repeated itself. Minor setbacks in daily chores, a perceived slight from another disciple, even just quiet moments in meditation, all became fuel for his negative thought loops. He started avoiding tasks he feared failing at, grew quiet and withdrawn, his brow often furrowed in worry or self-criticism. The joy he initially felt in monastic life began to fade, replaced by a constant, low hum of anxiety. The master, with his quiet, observant nature, noticed the change. He saw the tension in Kenji's posture, the lack of light in his eyes. He understood that Kenji wasn't lazy or unwilling, but trapped in a cycle of negativity. One afternoon, the master found Kenji sitting dejectedly by the monastery wall, staring blankly after another frustrating attempt at a task. The master sat down beside Kenji, his voice as gentle as a breeze over still water. "Kenji," he said softly, "your spirit seems heavy today. What troubles your mind?" Kenji lowered his gaze, his voice tight with frustration. He felt as though he kept failing. His mind was crowded with doubt and relentless self-criticism. The more he tried to push those thoughts away, the stronger they returned, like shadows that grew darker with resistance. And in that moment, he felt trapped, caged within the chaos of his own mind. The master listened patiently, his gaze compassionate. He didn't offer platitudes or dismiss Kenji's feelings. Instead, after a moment of silence, he said, "Come, walk with me." He led Kenji away from the monastery buildings, down a winding path towards a part of the mountain Kenji rarely visited. They arrived at a small, stagnant pond, covered in thick algae, the water murky and still. A few dead leaves floated on the surface. "Kenji," the master said calmly, "can you fetch me a cup of clear water from this pond?" Kenji looked at the pond, then back at the master, confused. "But master, the water is filthy, stagnant. It's full of mud and decay. There's no clear water here." The master smiled gently, his eyes calm and knowing. He spoke softly, asking Kenji, "Exactly. And what happens if you stir the bottom?" Kenji paused, the lesson sinking in. He replied with quiet clarity, that stirring the bottom would only make the water murkier, the mud rising to cloud everything once again. "Your mind, Kenji," the master said, his voice soft but clear, "is like this pond when you allow negative thoughts to stagnate. An initial doubt, a worry, Vitakka, is like a leaf falling onto the surface. It's natural, but when you grasp onto it, when you stir it with sustained attention, judgment, and resistance, Vicara, you cloud the entire pond. You try to fight the thoughts, to push them away. It's like stirring the mud. The more you struggle against the negativity, the murkier your mind becomes." He gestured towards a tiny stream trickling nearby, its water flowing clear over smooth stones. "Clarity doesn't come from fighting the mud, Kenji. It comes from allowing the water to flow, from letting the sediment settle naturally. It comes from observing the thoughts without stirring them up, without identifying with them. Just as this stream flows, allow your thoughts to arise and pass. Observe them with mindfulness, not with resistance." Kenji stared at the stagnant pond, then at the clear stream, the master's words resonating deep within him. He saw the pattern clearly, the initial thought, the obsessive engagement, the futile struggle, the resulting mental murkiness. Tears welled in his eyes, not of despair, but of understanding. From that day, Kenji approached his mind differently. When the inner critic arose during calligraphy, "You're not good enough," he didn't immediately believe it, nor did he aggressively push it away. He learned to recognize it. The thought of inadequacy. He learned to allow it to be present, without judgment. It's okay that this thought is here. He would gently investigate the feeling behind it, perhaps fear or tension in his body, with curiosity, and he would nurture himself with kindness. "This is difficult, but I am learning." This was the practice of rain. Sometimes, he simply noted the thoughts as they arose, worrying, or judging, and gently returned his focus to his breath or the stroke of the brush. He didn't expect the thoughts to vanish instantly. Instead, he changed his relationship to them. He stopped stirring the mud. Slowly, gradually, the sediment began to settle. The negative loops lost their power when they weren't constantly fueled by resistance and belief. He still made mistakes in his calligraphy, but now he could simply acknowledge them, learn, and continue, without the crushing weight of self-condemnation. Clarity began to return to his mind, like the pond slowly clearing as fresh water flowed in and the mud settled. Kenji learned that overcoming negative thoughts wasn't about forceful removal, but about cultivating a mindful, compassionate awareness that allowed them to naturally dissolve. Kenji's story mirrors our own universal struggle. That inner critic, the loop of worry, the sting of resentment, these are common human experiences. Buddhist wisdom, echoed by modern psychology, teaches us that thoughts themselves aren't the core problem. It's our identification with them and our resistance to them that causes suffering. When we believe every negative thought and fight against its presence, we give it power, stirring the mud in our own mental pond. Understanding Vitakka and Vicara is key. We can learn to catch negative thoughts earlier, at the Vitakka stage, recognizing them simply as mental events, like clouds passing in the sky. And if they progress to Vicara, we can practice non-engagement, observing them without adding more stories, judgments, or fuel. Techniques like rain or noting aren't about making thoughts disappear, but about creating space around them, reducing their impact, and allowing clarity to emerge naturally. Silencing the inner critic isn't about achieving a perfectly silent mind, but about changing your relationship with your thoughts. By cultivating mindful awareness and self-compassion, you stop stirring the mud. You learn to observe the leaves on the pond without plunging in after them. This is the path to reclaiming your inner peace, allowing your mind's natural clarity to shine through, regardless of the thoughts that may arise and pass. Embrace this path with the Noble Wisdom Path. Subscribe for more wisdom on navigating the mind. Share your journey in the comments. Try practicing rain or noting today. Thank you for listening.